Value now. This whole part of the eye is a round surface. This part of your eye is like a plate added to it. Let's draw that with a pen here. So here's your, this is your orange shape for your eye or your sphere. All right. Try to get it more sphere-like. And then this part, it actually protrudes off of it like that. And it's nice and round. So it's like a plate or a bowl that's stuck on this sphere. But it's quite shallow. It's not so thick. All right. So right in here, we're going to, in this area, the value starts coming up. There's more value in this area. All right. So we put a little bit of value. And remember, on our scales, how much pressure does it take to put a 1 or a 2 value on that page? It all depends on your paper too. This paper that I'm using now, it picks up the pencil very, very easily. Okay, how much pressure did I use for that line? And that line isn't going to stay a line. I'm just adding it in so I can see it better. But this pressure here is actually going to be most of the value. But I want to show you how you draw in a section. So this section right here is going to get just that one value, and that value may go up in value as I draw this thing, because I don't want it too dark and I don't want it too light. So I start looking at other values and seeing if it's close to that value or if it needs to be darkened. It's very hard to lighten it because I don't use erasers. So basically you have to make sure that you don't get too dark all of a sudden. So right now this is maybe a 3 or a 4. It may go up to an 8. If you're using graphite and you put marks down and you want it to get darker, you'll just get this gray slick look. All right, to add more value in here, right in here, this is a pretty light value, but down in here you can add just a little bit more. And this line right here, you don't want it to be a line. You want it to smoothly transition in because it's a round surface. But right here, you don't want a smooth transition, you want an abrupt transition right in this area. So when two values come together, that's what creates the line. You're not trying to get, you're not trying to get lines everywhere, you're trying to get value to create lines. Where one plane meets another one, or one curved surface will just create the whole, there will be a nice smooth transition. All right, when we get into an area, say right in here, if you're able to see it on the video, I'm not sure. There's a curve here, a very nice S curve. All right, and then there's a line that comes down like this, created by the two. This is a cast shadow. What I'm drawing out here is a cast shadow. And it gets a darker value. what I mean by cast shadow, if you don't understand that, this is blocking the light from this surface. This surface here is up, this surface here is down. So there's the down plane and there's the up plane. And it's happening all the way across this. And there's the up plane. But right in here, when the light comes down, this part is blocking the light from hitting here, so this gets darker. This right here is form shadow. And form shadow has bounce light in it. And I was talking about form shadow, cast shadow, bounce light, all of that. So right in here, this right here is cast shadow because the light is coming down and it's being blocked by this shape. This shape right here is facing down from the light, and this shape right here is facing up to the light. So this up to the light is bouncing light, and from the room bouncing light into this area. But right in here it's a little bit darker, so we add just a little bit more pressure. Remember our scales, that's how we know how much pressure to use, and just put that in there. Well, this right here is bounce light, but remember this right here is also in the shadow shape, so it must be darker than your lighted area. Right over in here, there's a little bit of value placed in that area. And actually, yeah, it goes about to there. And this can go all the way out to here with its darkness. And I'm going to transition from light to dark. Right? And then right in here, I'm just going to blend that in nicely. But this gets a definite change. There's a definite line, but it's a little bit blurred. But it's not as much of a line as this is, but it's a little bit blurred. But it's more of a line from here. And this, though, is very, transitions very slowly into that next one. Always squinting my eyes to find out what value is darker, what value is lighter. So I believe right up in here, when it's closest to the form that's blocking it, that's going to have the most value. Especially when we get up in here, and this part, like this is touching right up against that. So that's going to have a lot more, that's going to be a lot darker value. But remember, don't put that value in right away, all the way to dark. Just get a little bit of value in there, because if you put the value in right away, then you're going to have a problem with it being maybe too dark. Because what I really want to have is focal areas, or things that have dominance. So the dominant part, probably want this pupil to have a dominance. So more contrast for more dominance. Also, as I think about that, you want value with more contrast. The darkest value and the lightest value together create more contrast, and more contrast pops things forward. This is called atmospheric perspective, and you can use atmospheric perspective even on an eyeball, even on a distance that's not even an inch in depth, right? The depth can be that narrow, but you can still use atmospheric perspective to create depth. So this iris we want dark, and these white areas we want lighter. And then as we move, so that if this is closest to us and we want more dominance in that area too, because we want to focus right in there, we're going to create a lot of darkness here, and then as we move back in space around this eye, moving from